How you doing? This is Father Bill, pastor of St. Mary's Church in Assumption parishes. On my last video, my Easter message, I promised some tools that might help you grow spiritually during this time of pandemic. And what I'm working towards is a description of the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola. But first, we need to set a groundwork and kind of define some important things, some important truths before those can make any sense, before those guides can make any sense. So the first thing I want to talk with you about today is the fact that you have a soul. Okay, so what's the soul? The soul is, in a sense, what makes you human. The soul is what what makes you who you are as a person. Now, the body makes you an individual physical being in this world, but the soul is what gives you what we could call your human nature. Okay, so another word for the soul could be the spirit or consciousness. Your conscious soul is where your power to understand and where your power to choose comes from. Okay, the soul's where those powers reside. The soul probes universal questions such as, where did they come from? How were things created? How did this creation come to be? What's going to happen when my body dies? What's the meaning of the relationships that I have with other people? What's right? What's wrong? How can we know the difference? Many scientists have tried to reduce the conscious soul to a byproduct of brain chemistry, as if just the chemical interactions in the brain sort of make us perceive certain things as good or bad or right or wrong or something to that effect. But this is not something that scientists have any proof for. At any rate, it's not reasonable to assume that this is the case, that your soul is just a projection of your brain chemistry. Why is it unreasonable to believe that? Well, mainly because first of all, it's not been proven. Second of all, if your morality and relationships are just a function of your brain chemistry, then how can you ever say anything universally true or false about what you do, who you're related to, and so on? It would just simply be a function of social convention. And even in deciding social conventions, you have to make evaluative choices about what is right and what is wrong. You can't do that if it's just a function of chemicals firing off in your brain. Obviously, the soul relies on the physical. The soul relies on the brain. It relies on our senses. Without them, we can't reason or even exist in this world. I mean, once your body's dead, you don't exist in this world anymore. But what happens to the soul when somebody dies? And what are the qualities of the soul? Well, this is a question primarily not for scientists. Scientists are very important. They deal with questions of how physical things work. This is primarily a question for philosophers and for religion, for theologians. In our religion, me being a Roman Catholic priest, not assuming that you're Roman Catholic, but I think most of the people watching these videos at this point are my parishioners. So our religion, our tradition, is the Hebrew tradition of the Bible, which we believe was fulfilled in the coming of Jesus Christ and the founding of a New Testament. Now, science gives us good understanding of how physical things work. And so we've been able to have this modernity through the growth of science, which actually the Catholic Church has encouraged with a few notable, obviously well-publicized exceptions, Galileo and some of these other people. But really the Church has been a patron of the sciences. Even the man who found the Big Bang theory, founded that theory, he was a Jesuit priest. So at any rate, physical scientific laws are more easily used to organize public life than, say, debatable religious revelations. And so the modern world has elevated those physical scientific laws over that of the concerns of the soul. And that's okay. I mean, that's necessary and I think very practical. But we've become so wealthy in terms of our physical understanding that we've forgotten the concerns of our souls and that we even have souls. You know, it's very trendy to deny that that's even the case. It's just all physical. And once we die physically, we're done. You know, we cease to exist. But we cannot forget that the soul poses questions to us that seem universally experienced by people. You know, why am I here? What's my origin? How was I created? How do I relate to my fellow individuals? What's the meaning of life? What is love? What is hope? What is joy? How do we make sense of suffering? And that leads into the next question. When do we begin to face the state of our souls? We begin to face the state of our souls usually when we have to sacrifice something of our body. When we get sick, when we're dying, certainly on the point of death. But a quarantine could help us to have to examine the state of our souls as well. Think about it. What's the quarantine do? It separates us physically from each other, okay? So we can't touch each other. We can't even breathe the same air as our neighbor without wearing a mask, we're told by the public health officials, and for good reason, you know. But this is a painful thing, you know. We can't see our families, we can't see our friends, we can't see each other as parishioners. We're also afraid of getting physically ill. We're afraid of the seriousness of this coronavirus. We're afraid of dying. This becomes much more real to us now. Maybe not for us, for our loved ones. By accepting the sacrifice of bodily pleasure, physical pleasure, we have an opportunity to strengthen our soul. We realize that the body is not the only part of our conscious being, that we have a spiritual side as well. So you have a great opportunity now to exercise the powers of your soul. We do this during Lent all the time when we fast, when we give alms, when we pray more. Now we get the strange opportunity to do it during Easter time. So what's a first step to wade into the soul and strengthen the spiritual muscle, so to speak, to use an analogy? Well, the first, I think we have to deal with our fears and anxieties. The threat of deprivation of the body, of our getting sick, of dying, this creates serious fear and anxiety in us, so much so that we've shut the whole world down, right? We've shut the whole economy down. We have to take care of our physical health. That's important. We recognize the body is good. It's not that the body's bad and the soul's good. Both body and soul are good. But we have to recognize that our soul and body are susceptible to various illnesses that can hurt them. So obviously you have a great example, the coronavirus, very hurtful to the body. But we have a problematic tendency to want to choose to be ignorant and selfish and do what in Western religion we tend to call sin. We tend to be selfish, don't we? And we want to do things to pleasure our own bodies, and this comes at the expense of the bodies of other people. And when we do this, we damage our consciousness and we damage our conscience. And when we do this, we tend to then more frequently do this. And we graduate then to things that are more frequent and greater in magnitude, ways that we're going to choose our own self over that of another person. And so this is the first tool, is to recognize that you have a soul, and that's threatened by the tendency to be selfish and sinful. In the next video, we're going to talk about the main tool to fix our souls and our selfishness and sin and point it towards the good. And this tool is God's revealed word. So thanks for watching. Please hit like to like this video and subscribe to our parish channel. And I hope to put the next video up tomorrow, if not tomorrow, the day after. God bless.